The 6th annual Social Justice Lecture is set to be delivered by Dr. Michael Hastings of Scarisbrick CBE. The renowned English peer, educator and advocate for social justice will deliver the Stellenbosch University's 6th annual Social Justice Lecture, presented by the Centre for Social Justice and hosted by Professor Thuli Madonsela, Director of the Social Justice Centre, and Prof Wim de Villiers, Rector and Vice-Chancellor of Stellenbosch University. For more on this, we're now joined by Prof Thuli Madonsela. Prof, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Let's start with the theme. It's a unique and peculiar theme. Ignite a fire is the tagline it goes. But the focus really this year is on social justice in the energy and resources space. Talk to us about what that means.
Well, greetings firstly, Oliver, and thank you for this privilege. The UN's focus is of course on energy and climate change. We have chosen, or Lord Michael has chosen, to focus on the link between sacrifice, social justice, and integrity. And he says he's going to ignite a fire that hopefully is going to be a game changer in terms of how we think about social justice. Up until now, the lecture has been delivered mostly by lawyers, and the emphasis has been around law. I think Lord Michael is going to focus on the ethical considerations around social justice.
There are big questions in the energy space around the world, particularly in the disparity between energy security between the global north and the global south, particularly where the expectation is that the global south reduce their carbon footprint, accelerate towards decarbonizing, taking on conditional aid and conditional loans to do exactly that. But the global north, like America, can just waltz in and summarily decide to withdraw from the Paris Climate Peace Accord, as well as discard any sort of decarbonation targets that the world had collectively set for each other and its peers, which means that the global south is at the mercy of the global north, who can, at a whim, renege from any such agreements. There needs to be a realignment globally in what our responsibilities are and how we hold each other accountable for that. Do you hope that the lecture addresses that very specific disparity, especially as we witness and observe a move towards right-wing politics, immersing itself into the energy conversation?
I'm certain that the lecture will address that and more. And at the core of that are issues of integrity and sacrifice. And you have pointed out the fact that when it comes to the carbon footprint, the developing world has not contributed that much in terms of the carbon footprint. It's been mostly the Western world. But when it comes to sacrifice and jointly carrying the burden of saving life on our planet, we're all required to carry the responsibility, which is good. I think we're not complaining that we all have to carry responsibility because clouds have no borders. But I think the point you're raising is, how do we share that responsibility equitably? And how do we ensure that there's integrity among all players? Some can't just make rules for others and then operate differently.
Yeah. Prof Madonsela, last question here. What does energy justice look like?
Well, firstly, I want to say that we won the energy justice or just transition in terms of the energy sector and energy security. At the core of that are two things. One was the disruption that comes with moving from a carbon-intensive energy sources to green energy should not be borne primarily by the poor or the disadvantaged. So the idea was the process should be just and equitable, in that as you are sliding into green energy, the opportunities, the job opportunities that arise, the economic opportunities that arise are distributed equitably, and also they are used to enhance equality. That's within the country itself. You can't just say coal mines, oh, right? Yes, you will lose your jobs, but we'll create more without looking at who gets those jobs and who gets the ownership of the new deal. So the ownership of green energy has to be equitably shared between the developing world and the developed world.
Yeah, resource wars are abound across the world, and as we've seen with Donald Trump once again coming into presidency, that diplomacy is very much transactional. The resource conversation on the continent and the world over is one that is now underpinned by transactional diplomacy. Are you worried about the direction the world is moving towards?
Both worried and excited. And of course, because I'm middle class, there's an element of excitement in that the conversations that have emerged because of the decisions that are taking place in America have forced us to squarely deal with ethics, to deal with when we make laws, for whom are these laws supposed to apply? Do they only apply to those who don't have money and guns, or do they apply to everyone? But secondly, it has forced countries like ours to deal with the past that continues to mark the present and possibly is going to mark the future. So yes, there's a terrible thing about the fact that there's unethical backsliding in democracy, in respect for social justice, and in respect for equity. But I do think that the conversation that has emerged will force us to think about our Palestinians people, our people in the South people. And if they are people, if they are human, should we then all respect human rights for all? And should we even rethink how the UN is structured, including the UN Security Council? So there's an opportunity that this year, things are going to be tough, but they'll change for the better. And this lecture, please join. We have 30 more spaces. This lecture is one of the conversations that will be part of the game-changing discourse.
Prof Madonsela, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. For more information on the social justice lecture, do visit the website of the University, of Stellenbosch University rather, to claim one of the 30 spaces that are left.